That is just incredible. This thing's just a tank, even in just two-wheel drive. So I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret here. I'm actually doing this whole entire thing in two-wheel drive. Prior to this new setup, going through that certainly would have required four-wheel drive. What's up guys, this is Chad with Living the Van Life. Right now I am down here in sunny Southern California. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a disclaimer right here in the beginning of this video. While I would love for it to be so, not every single video here on the Living the Van Life YouTube channel can be all about the backcountry travel. It can't always be about camping, and it certainly can't always be about winter camping because snow only happens one season out of the year. For those of you that are here on the channel and love and enjoy that type of content, stay tuned, be patient, there's always more adventures coming your direction. But this particular video is specifically for you Sprinter van owners that are interested in getting your van more capable for off-road and backcountry travel. Now it doesn't matter if you're two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, you guys are going to want to stay tuned to this video because we're going to talk about some things that are going to change your game. And for those of you on the channel that are just simply interested in coming along for a bit of an adventure and getting an inside look at what it takes to make these vans more capable, then stay tuned to this video, come along for the adventure, because in this video we're going to talk about air lockers. Now you guys might be asking, well, what the heck is an air locker and how does it apply to a van? And that's what we're going to get into here in this video. And as you guys know, here on Living the Van Life, my goal with this Sprinter van is to blur the lines between overlanding and van life, and finding the balance in a vehicle that is full-time livable, but it's also off-road capable. Now, while Sprinter vans are very nice and comfortable for full-time living, they come from the factory lacking a little bit of luster when it comes to off-road capabilities. Now, Agile Offroad, who is an industry leader in the van world, is stepped up to the plate, teamed up with myself, and I'm excited to work with those guys because they are always working and developing on products, parts, and accessories that make these vans more capable. So in this video we're going to talk about the air locker that Agile and ARB have teamed up to develop specifically for these Sprinter vans. So from here we're going to get into the shop and we're going to take a look at what it takes to fit an ARB air locker into the Sprinter vans. But after that, we are going to get deep into the backcountry with these Sprinter vans here in the deserts of Southern California, and we're going to put that air locker to the test and see if we can't demonstrate just how big a difference it makes here on these vans. So all of you guys that are interested in this, welcome aboard this video and let's get into it. One of the biggest questions that I've gotten on the YouTube channel is about running my oversized tires and if I have actually changed the gearing in my Sprinter van. Now, up until now, being able to change gears in Sprinter vans was not actually possible, and that's due to the fact that the stock carrier and ring gear are actually friction welded together, so there's no way of actually just replacing the ring gear with a lower gear and thus being able to make a better gear ratio.
So here's your two differentials. This is the factory Mercedes one, and then here's the ARB with the bolt-on gear. Here you can see the actual factory Mercedes differential with the ring gear, and you'll notice it's actually welded on. Of course, we can't change these out.
Now with the development of the ARB air locker being able to fit here into the Sprinter vans, not only are you actually gaining better traction, but with that ARB carrier, you're now actually able to swap out the ring gear like you would in a normal standard differential, and now we can run different gears. So in my case, because I am running extra oversized tires, I'm able to swap over to a 418 gear and get myself closer to a stock gearing. That's going to help my acceleration. It's going to also help me off-road when I'm in low four-wheel drive and being able to crawl up trails.
There's only one manufacturer that we're using for the ring gear, so this locker is specifically made for this ring gear.
Now getting into all this technical stuff can be a little bit overwhelming when talking about it just on video. John and the guys here at Agile actually have a cool display unit here inside the showroom, so we're going to go and get a closer look of exactly how a locker works.
Here's the cutaway of the ARB locker, and the big advantage of an ARB is it's a selectable locker. So in this case here, it's not selected in the lock position, and you can actually see that the gears are differentiating. What this allows you to do is when you're going around, say, a parking lot, your inner tire is pivoting and your outer tire is actually rotating more. So this inner tire, let's say, rotates once, outer tire is going to rotate twice. This unit is allowing that to do that, so you won't get any scrub in it. So this is a factory setup. With an open differential off-road, you can actually get differentiating going on, and what it'll do is it'll allow one tire to spin over another. If you've had an old car that you could do like a one-leg burnout right in your parking lot, to make that tire stop spinning, you'd pull the emergency brake and it would push power over to the other side. That was like the poor man's posse. Mercedes utilizes that in their factory system. When the tire starts to spin, they're actually applying the brake with a brain. But what that does is that gives you like some herky-jerky going on there. One tire wanting to spin, and then we're trying to brake it and do this, and you know, you got your gas down on the floor and the thing's trying to brake it. You want to go up a hill, the last thing you really want to be doing is applying a brake. I mean, sometimes you get a Sprinter up a hill without a locker, you almost got to drive it like you stole it. You know, full throttle, let the fly-by-wire do the thing, let the brakes do it, but a lot of times it just won't go up the hill. Now with the ARB being selectable, we can come in here, we turn on your air source, and then you turn on the actuator, which is that brass tube, comes down in here, and we're going to slide this black collar over. This is the side housing, which is fixed to the ring gear, and then we're going to slide it in, we're going to lock it up to this side gear. So once it locks up here, all this stuff is going to lock up and stop moving, and keep in mind that there's a lot of force pushing this out. So lock it up. Now you've got this, and now you're completely locked. So now both your inner and outer tire are going to rotate the same. So with this, we're going to get maximum traction with both tires spinning identical. You lock the rear end, you climb up that hill, you have zero slippage in the rear. If you do get slippage, you'll get both of them slipping, but you're not going to have the brake apply because it's sensing that both tires are still connected like it's going down the freeway. Obviously you won't run this on the street or in a dry situation. This would be used for off-road or slippery situation, things like that.
So at this point, everything is removed. We're gonna go over to the mill, and Glenn is going to machine a bit of a groove out of the bearing cap. That's going to allow clearance for the airline that's going to be supplying air to the air locker.
Going to take it down probably 100 thousandths or so to create room for the copper line. Even up there, go a little bit wider. Yeah. That's it right there. A little more room for the airline.
At this point, these guys just test fitted the differential assembly. the new air locker that's going to be going in, making sure that all the gear patterns are lining up nicely and that the spacing is correct for the differential to operate properly.
This is the side we like to focus on, which is the drive side. That's a pretty nice pattern.
If it's too tight, then it causes too much heat. If it's too loose, it makes too much noise. So it's a matter of getting it within the perfect thousandths to make sure it operates properly.
You can break it down. Don't final it.
Everything seems to look fairly good. They're going to go ahead and disassemble it and do the final installation after that. Nothing like this has ever been done before. Mercedes doesn't make a locking rear end for it. So this is all new territory, and Agile has done an extensive amount of research and development on this product prior to even making it available to the public. So even while it is all new territory, these guys know quite a bit about it already. They do extensive testing, watching the temperatures on the gearing, an extensive break-in period before they just hand you the keys and turn you loose. So the fact that Agile goes through this much detail before they even release it to the public means a lot to me, because these are intricate machines, they're expensive machines, so the fact that they take this stuff seriously, it's definitely a good thing. Now what's nice about an air locker is the fact that the driver has full control of the system right from the driver's seat via a switch, which will turn on the air compressor and then supply air to the differential in the rear.
This is the air line that's going to supply air to the differential. It's going to come and run down the parking brake cable right here and right into that fitting. The front will run all the way up to the compressor.
Now, if going with an air locker in your van is something that you are considering, one thing to keep in mind is that you're going to need an onboard air system. Luckily, that is actually one of my favorite things that I've already installed here on the van. Right here under the hood, I've got the ARB dual air compressor. It has been absolutely perfect for allowing me to air down when I'm going to go hit a dirt track that's rough and rugged. And luckily, that means there's one less thing that we have to worry about installing here today in order to make my air locker system work. What the guys here at Agile are going to do is add a manifold here underneath the hood. It's got a solenoid, and that allows me to remotely trigger the air locker from the driver's seat on the dash, allowing me to lock and unlock the locker as needed in different scenarios. So, onboard air, thank goodness I've already got it installed here. If it's something that you don't have, that is something you're going to have to keep in mind. You're going to have to add to your system, or they'll add it as part of the whole entire kit when they install a locker here at Agile. During this installation of the locker, we went ahead and installed a switch for my air compressor, which is controlled right here from the driver's seat. Normally I was controlling that from underneath the hood, and now it's moved to here, which is nice. Right next to it, this is where I'm going to be able to control the air locker. Now the thing about it is the fact that you don't want your rear differential locked at all times, especially while driving on pavement, because it actually causes too much traction. So once the going gets tough out off-road, that's where I'm able to flip the switch right from the driver's seat, engage that rear differential lock, and we're going more places. Now, when off-roading a Sprinter van, one of the major weak points of the Sprinter van drivetrain is actually the stock differential cover. It's made out of a thin stamped sheet metal, and if you ever high center on a rock in that area, it's very susceptible to just peeling up and causing an oil leak, dropping all of your differential oil right there on the trail. So one other upgrade that's coming along with the installation of the locker is a new differential cover. Agile is actually installing their new differential cover, which completely eliminates that problem altogether.
Dirt on it looks pretty good. Looks good on your van.
Yeah, looks good on this one. It looks good on our van.
Okay, at this point the differential job is complete. Because I am running the lower gear ratio at the 418 gears, the transmission and the computer system inside the Sprinter van actually needs to be reprogrammed. So we're going to go ahead and lower this thing to the ground and plug in the computer so that this thing can be reprogrammed to function properly with this gearing and the actual tire size that I've got. Now this step here is important because these Sprinter vans and this modern technology is highly sensitive to any changes that you make with tire size, with gearing, etc.
So we need to match the speeds of the rear wheels with the transmission. So we're going to plug into Chad's vehicle here and get that thing reprogrammed. We do that right here in-house. We get you handled.
Thank goodness that's been part of the process here at Agile, is that they've actually figured out how to reprogram everything to function properly with this. So I think what really gives me the confidence in trying out a new product like this is the fact that not only does it have Agile Offroad's very knowledgeable and professional staff working on it and developing it into the Sprinter platforms, but also the fact that they have teamed up with somebody like ARB. Now ARB is a huge name in the off-road world, and they have been developing this air locker system of theirs for a number of years. So there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of professionalism, there's a lot of experience that goes into making this work on a Sprinter van. This isn't just thrown together in somebody's backyard and we're going out to try something new. There's a lot of time, there's a lot of expertise that has gone into making this right. So here we are out in Ocotillo Wells. This is a big off-road vehicle park east of San Diego in the desert. And we're trying to find scenarios where these Sprinter vans will not make it in two-wheel drive. Then we can engage the locker and see how it helps improve what we're doing out here. Right here behind me, we've got a little bit of a hill climb. It's nothing crazy. For a 10,000, almost 10,000 pound Sprinter van, it's a little bit of a challenge. With big heavy vans like this, with a power band that sits at about 2,200, 2,300 RPMs, that's where these diesel motors come up on the turbo, and that's where your real power is. Which means a lot of times to hit hills like this, you've got to hit it with a bit of speed to keep your power up. What I'm curious to see is if we can't lock in the locker, hit it at a little bit lower speed and just crawl our way up. Let's go check it out and see what happens. We're going to try this first in two-wheel drive with the lockers unlocked. Okay, so not too terrible. You can feel it starting to slip and alter the traction back and forth between the two rear tires, and it causes a little bit of bumping, and so the ride becomes a little rougher. At this point, we're going to go ahead and lock in the rear locker and see if having more traction to the back doesn't allow us to have a little bit smoother ride and we're not beating the vehicle up so bad. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my air compressor, and then with the air on, now we can go ahead and engage the locker. We can hear the air compressor kick in, do its thing. Once I engaged the locker, I went ahead and just put it into drive and then reverse just to make sure that the gears can mesh on the locker. Now we're all set. We should be able to go ahead and climb. From the driver's seat, when I did it unlocked, then I felt like the rear tires were searching for traction back and forth. And in that soft sand up that hill, anytime the wheels switch power back and forth, you kind of get this rocking back and forth as it's searching for traction. It ends up kind of digging yourself some potholes as you make your way up. Once I put the locker in, I felt like that all went away, which made for a much smoother ride because both rear tires had power moving in one direction and made for much better traction. And if that's the case, being able to hit terrain a lot slower in the vehicle is a good thing. And especially, like I said, with these Sprinter vans, most of the time you've got to hit things a lot harder than you normally would in, like, let's say a Toyota or a Jeep that actually has a crawling gear. But nonetheless, so far, thumbs up on the locker for this type of scenario. From here, we're going to keep searching for other scenarios where these things will not make it unlocked or in two-wheel drive. See if we can't put this locker to the test even more. Okay, so here we have found ourselves another scenario. There again, it is a hill climb, but this one has a little bit more undulating terrain. It starts in from around a corner, and right off the bat we've got uneven off-camber bumps that anytime you've got a big, tall, heavy vehicle and it starts getting off-camber through undulating terrain, that's the scenarios where you start losing traction in two-wheel drive when you have just an open differential. So up here towards the top of the hill, we've got a pretty good divot on one side, and that's going to throw the van to one direction. And those are the scenarios in two-wheel drive where we're going to be looking at the traction of the rear tires as that rear end continues to search for traction as we're going through this undulating terrain. So we'll try it in two-wheel drive unlocked first, and then we'll pull around and we'll try it all locked up. Okay, so here we go. We are locked up, two-wheel drive, climbing the hill here. The van just has so much more confidence when both tires have full power to them, utilizing the traction of both rear tires at the same time. That is just incredible, to be honest with you. It makes me want to just keep doing it over and over again. It's pretty cool because when this thing's got full traction in the back, full power going to both wheels, this thing's just a tank even in just two-wheel drive. And I'm just not even getting on it, just nice, easy throttle, not beating up the van, and it just crawls right up it. And the van feels confident. From the driver's seat as a driver, gives me more confidence, just making this thing that much more powerful as we're out here exploring backcountry and getting ourselves into crazy terrain. Right? Yeah. It's crazy. That's why even on that second one, I just like eased into it, didn't even get, I mean, maybe not even half throttle, and just
and it's weird. It's also getting chewed up even more. Like, you know. So, yeah, this is cool.
We're out here with both the Sprinter vans. John's got his Revel out here, and yours is one of the first ones to have the locker put in it, right? Yeah. So John joined me out here in the desert, put these vans to the test. So that's what we've been doing today. In fact, we just finished up the second test really of testing this thing out. Now we've been doing all of this in two-wheel drive. We're trying it unlocked. And then we're trying it locked.
Yeah.
And from your perspective out here standing by watching, what are you seeing from down below?
You know, I mean, even down below you can see where, you know, you're going up in two-wheel drive. It's not like you're struggling when you're not locked, but you can see that the van's getting bounced around and hopping and skipping, and then the tires coming off the ground, traction, all that. And you go up in it locked, and it's like a totally different landscape. Like it doesn't look as bumpy, and you're just driving up. It just like, and I think you're even going up a little bit slower. You know, so you're not having to carry as much speed and beat the van up. So it's pretty significant, and hopefully we can relay that in the video. You know.
Well, from the driver's perspective, you know, in the seat, it definitely feels way smoother. You know, you can in two-wheel drive unlocked, you can really feel the back tires searching for traction. You know, and they're kind of digging themselves little potholes as they go up, so it starts doing this. But with that thing locked in, even through this undulating terrain, you can feel both of them just going. The van's more confident. It's just pushing itself up the hill. And
sometimes when you're unlocked, you actually wish you had a little bit more power. Carry a little bit more speed, because you're like, oh, is it gonna make it? And then when you go up in a locked, you're feeling a lot more confident.
100%.
You know? Right.
I think the biggest thing is you're not having to beat your van up so much. You know?
For sure.
Much easier on equipment, I feel like. Well, so far so good. I'm impressed from the driver's perspective. I haven't been out here looking at it from the outside, but that's what John's had an eye out here so he can see the other perspective, and hopefully it comes through on camera. But I don't know, let's go see what else we can find out here.
Sweet.
See if we can put this thing to the test. Well, we've had our little bit of fun out here in the desert here in Ocotillo Wells. From here, John's got a route that'll take us between here and the desert up towards Julian, which is a spot up in the mountains. And it sounds like this trail's got some challenging terrain that should be a real life scenario to be able to put the vans into and see if we can't continue to put this locker to the test. Go out and have some fun, do some exploring. So that's where we're headed off to now. First up though, once we get back here to the highway, gonna go ahead and air the tires back up so we can make the several miles over to the next trailhead. Here on Living the Van Life, my goal has been to blur the lines between overlanding and van life and find the balance in building a vehicle that is off-road capable, but it's also full-time livable. And that's what I found here in the Sprinter van. Now, while they are most likely lacking more in off-road capability than they are in livability, that's why folks like Agile are so important to the industry, is that they are continuing to push the limits of what's possible in these Sprinter vans. And for example, the air locker, being able to incorporate those, that's going to be a huge game changer for van life and overlanding, etc. So cool opportunity to be out here hanging out with John and learning from his experience. So from here we're going to finish airing up and we're going to go hit this other trail. Okay, we've got the vans airing down here at the trailhead. We're gonna be headed up this mountain here behind me. Be interested to see what this gets to be all about. Hopefully put these vans to the test. We'll get this locker locked in and hopefully get us through it.
This is Oriflame Canyon, and we're gonna go up into here. Now I remember there was a lot of it's pretty rocky. Once we get up into this area, it's gonna be fairly exposed, so not a lot of trees to run into with the sprinters. I do remember there was some interesting spots, so hopefully we can get through.
So we'll be out putting this locker to the test then.
Yeah, definitely.
Some decently rough terrain as we continue to climb up this canyon. Great opportunity to test out the van, great opportunity to test out the locker and see the differences. Now I've been trying it with the differential open in the back, and it definitely makes for a rougher, more jarring ride. It's not as predictable. You have to hit things a little bit harder. I feel like it's just flat out harder on equipment as the rear end searches for traction. Now it does it, it's definitely capable, but I went ahead and engaged the rear locker, so now I'm locked up, and I've got to say, now with this thing, you can just crawl up this stuff. It's less hard on equipment, it's a smoother ride, it's more predictable, and the van just feels much more confident in what it's doing out here. So definitely feeling the benefits of it out here on this type of terrain. That's half the problem with these Sprinter vans, is that the turbo doesn't kick in until about 2200 RPMs. So a lot of times when you're just in a crawling situation like I just was, you'll actually run out of throttle and not necessarily traction. And that's what happened in the middle of that. So I had to just reset, but nonetheless, you could definitely feel the traction. Now, one thing that I was worried about in this scenario, let's go back down and take a look at it, was this big giant loose rock. And normally I would have lost traction on that. As I was approaching it, I was worried about it. But if we look at this guy right here, this is a loose rock. My other tire was up over there, across there, which is good solid rock. Now normally I would have come up in here, that side would have been fine, this one would have slipped out, it would have thrown power back and forth, and it just would have been a mess. It wouldn't have worked. But in this situation, because the rear end was locked, I had good traction on that rock over there, and so it didn't want to overpower this loose rock and toss it out. And it just kept traction right up through here, and the van made it through. Quite confident in what this van will do now. I also had myself a bit of a scare here when I dipped into this hole after I made it up over the obstacle. I kind of came down hard on the left front tire and actually broke the bead for a fraction of a second. It lost about 10 PSI like that. And I think this camera up here maybe would have picked that up. That's one of the risks of running low air pressure, and perhaps I might be a little bit too low right now. So I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret here. We're actually doing this whole entire thing in two-wheel drive thus far. And I can certainly say that prior to this new setup, going through that certainly would have required four-wheel drive, because as soon as you start losing traction on by hanging a wheel, it's game over without four-wheel drive to help pull you through that. We're doing it all in two-wheel drive thanks to the locker. So I've got ourselves to another obstacle here. This one looks to be quite challenging. Still gonna keep it in two-wheel drive. Got the rear end locked in. I'm gonna see what this thing can do. Hell yeah, just like that. Two-wheel drive, locked up. I mean, this thing would have struggled before in four-wheel drive, and just to be able to even do this in two-wheel drive, that's pretty incredible. I mean, we were hanging tires, what, a good couple feet off the ground?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so typically that's the challenge that I find is anytime it hangs a wheel off the ground, you're pretty much done for. So that's where the locker's really coming in and shining on this trip right here.
It worked well. I mean, the one thing that I like, I had the locker on, so now when I'm touching the gas or moving the throttle, it goes. Yeah. You know, I'm not waiting for something to happen for it to get traction. So we had traction the whole way and just right up.
Damn, that's gnarly. Yeah, that thing, dude, was like, boo!
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's sinking down in that hole. Yeah, that one's dropped down into a hole.
The one on the passenger side.
Passenger front, yeah.
Yeah.
You're there, John. You're not going to go down any further.
Okay. So just go down?
Yeah, I'd back up slowly. But your back tire's on the ground, so. Whew. Hard passenger and back your front end. Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's some pucker there, huh?
Yeah. So I think if I just roll it up here, it'll probably go.
Yeah. Woo-hoo. Well, we've made our way through the gnarly sections as we worked our way up those switchbacks. I tell you what, that is definitely the roughest terrain that I've had the Sprinter van in. I've come across some obstacles that were perhaps just as challenging that I've made my way through previously. However, this was obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and we were way back in this canyon. Normally I'm out doing stuff like this solo. It was nice to have John on board with things. When you're with somebody else and you're exploring an area, you find that you push yourself and your vehicle a little bit harder, and that was good. I actually learned a lot about the Sprinter van and its capabilities, and I also learned that previous to this experience, I never had a clue on how powerful a rear locker could potentially be, and I'm completely surprised at its capabilities and the fact that it turned this Sprinter van into a freaking tank. I'm feeling a bit of a new wave of confidence in the Sprinter van, which is exciting. Well, we've officially made it down off of the mountain. That was some gnarliness. We definitely put the Sprinter vans to its test. We actually put ourselves to the test. There was a few moments in there where there was some certain pucker power going on as those vans came up. Definitely found some of those limits, but the undulating terrain really will lift the tires off of that, and it makes for an uneasy feeling inside the Sprinter van. But anytime you're hanging a wheel like that, that is where you typically lose traction. And today, with that locker engaged, we just kept traction, we kept on trucking. I was able to complete the whole entire trail in two-wheel drive, which was exciting. It is certainly a new wave of confidence in the Sprinter van when it comes to off-road. Just the way that it crawled up. You weren't hitting anything harder than what you felt you needed to. It was smooth, it was just solid traction, it was predictable. Super excited about this. Definitely new opportunities here for the Sprinter van, and the fact that these guys at Agile have developed this. It's going to be a game changer for those of us Sprinter people that want to get further out there for adventure. And it is for two-wheel drive people just as much as it is for four-wheel drive people. Matter of fact, kind of the thing that I've been thinking all day is the fact that for those of you who bought a two-wheel drive and was wishing that you bought a four-wheel drive, this locker is for you guys, because it's incredible what they're capable of in two-wheel drive. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, there we have it. The proof is in the pudding. The proof is here in this video. The ARB air locker system for the Sprinter vans by Agile Offroad has proved itself to me, and hopefully it's come across through the video that these things are actually viable for the Sprinter vans and helping get them more off-road capable. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you're new to the channel, I'd like to go ahead and invite you to be part of the Living the Van Life YouTube community by hitting that subscribe button. If you do hit that subscribe button, make sure and hit the little bell next to the subscribe button, because that's going to let you know when more Living the Van Life videos have posted on YouTube. Alright guys, make sure and leave your feedback in the comment section down below. Make sure and smash the hell out of that like button. And with that being said, I'm off to find the next Living the Van Life adventure. Peace out. Keep on trucking.